Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Oh, I don't have my normal camera on. What a freaking dorp I am, speaking of derp. But you want to know what? We'll just do it from the side camera because it's not terribly important that, you know what? No, I'm going to get my regular camera up. Give me just 1 sec. I was so worried about getting the show set up. Hopefully you can still hear me here. Here's my derp. And shoot. Okay, yeah, it's worth it. I'll just probably edit this stuff out. Now you guys can see me from the front, and that's much better because I have some notes, but this is in fact a live stream. I think we have all proven it's a live stream. This is somewhat impromptu, and I do have some notes because today and yesterday have been a real eye-opener. Now let me get this right up front. I've been uploading a ton of Matt Walsh content, but actually not as much as it seems. Let me explain. I do one long-form video, and I can talk a lot in a video. And then on days I can't stream, I chop up the one long form video, sometimes into 15 clips. So it looks like I have 16 separate videos on Matt Walsh, but it's really one video that has then been made into shorts because shorts is an entirely different audience and I like to post clips also on TikTok. And they've got to be shorter, bite-sized things. So it's not as many videos as it seems, but certainly Matt Walsh is one of my favorite topics. But over the past few days, and it's always been this way, but it seems worse over the past few days. So this is not just a Matt Walsh online fan issue. This happens with a lot of creators. And I do think, though, it is helpful to examine what I'm going to talk about, the phenomena I'm going to talk about further, to see like the pathological bullying behavior that online commenters seem to do. And it seems to be more predominant to certain creators, followers, than others. I certainly hope none of my followers are going around behaving so atrociously in other people's comment sections. Even if it's Matt Walsh, I don't want you going to his comment section and behaving absolutely atrociously in the way that I am going to describe it. And I hope in examining these types of issues, we see a bit of ourselves, because I think all of us can do it. It's a matter of how regularly you do it. Now, there was I don't need to mention any names. There was some advice I was given at some time that I think is pretty apropos, and that was never read the bottom half of the internet. But why is that? What is it about the brutish, rude, abusive comments that seem to be so common? And yes, it is partially because we're all keyboard warriors behind the keyboard, but there's something worse about it when it comes to videos, because you're not just dealing with a wall of text. When you're commenting on someone's video, particularly if it's not overly produced, which mine, as demonstrated by the beginning of this program, are not overly produced, you're dealing with more of having to see the face and the humanity and the voice of the person. And to still act that way reveals something very off about you, if that is something you constantly do. But first, let me say, I'm a big girl and I can give as good as I get. So it only interests me more as like a social phenomena. These sorts of things don't bother me. When something truly bothers me, I just block people like that, because life is too short to let people destroy your peace, harsh your mellow, if you know what I'm saying. So it doesn't bother me. I'm like observing this almost like a National Geographic reporter. It's like, and observe the behavior of the Matt Walsh troll in the wild. Now, Matt Walsh trolls lately have really fascinated me as part of this wider phenomena of stunted, unthinking, just retorts. And when you rebut it, even slightly, not even slightly, when you absolutely rebut it, they just don't come back. And what kind of mindset is that? There was a commenter the other day who challenged me on something I said in one of my videos, and I forgot I said it. So I got all huffy, and I was like, I never said that. And they're like, yeah, you did, and here's the timestamp. And you want to know what I immediately did? I didn't just abandon that comment thread and not come back. I said, you know what? I've been so busy today, I absolutely forgot I said that, and I owe you an apology. You're right, I said it, and here's what I mean by it. But however, these Matt Walsh sweet baby gang trolls come into comments expecting with a presupposition. And if you destroy that presupposition in the first comment, they just don't come back. They don't even have the dignity to say, oh, wow, okay, I had that really wrong. So it's this simplistic othering that his followers tend to do. And they other people into these predetermined classifications that when they break themselves on their own Catherine wheel of their presuppositions, it's amazing They just run away like brave Sir Robin. So let's deal with some of the types of comments I've been getting in the past few days. And again, I am attacking their idol. I get it. And I can give as good as I get. But first, some of the comments, and this happens all over the internet, but again, it's very concentrated in his followers that they're at least partially misogynistic. And I don't say that lightly, because they immediately go to appearance. And I'm not even talking about the pink hair. We'll deal with the pink hair in a moment. But it's like questions of, you're old, you have wrinkles, you're ugly. It's just like, how dare you be a mature woman in public? Well, my maturity of my mind, that might be a different story. But I'm just talking about appearance. Now, I don't care. I love my age. I've accomplished a lot in my life. And I wear every single wrinkle as hard-earned with a smile. But there's a lot of that gets directed towards women in the public sphere. And I can imagine somebody who's not quite as impervious to that sort of that really wounding them. But it speaks to a deep misogyny within themselves. I really do, because they would not make those same sorts of comments to a man. So it's really telling and really sad, because one thing that women are not allowed to do is age. Well, kiss my libertarian ass and fuck you. I do not give a shit. And here's the fact of it. I probably have much more accomplishments than those people will ever had. I have fought so much for everything I have in my life, and I've achieved certain heights within my chosen spheres of influence. But what's really interesting is that and it's mostly men, it's not always men though, but it's mostly men that claim to be conservatives. But that is a very non-conservative disrespect for age and for women, that they'd never tolerate someone talking to their mother that way, or their grandmother that way, or their elder sister that way. But they feel free to do that to a stranger when, if they hearken back to this golden time, this traditional time, other men would not tolerate women being talked to that way. But they just feel free to do it. This goes to show they're not really conservatives. They're conservatives when it's convenient. It's like I say with libertarians. Are you a libertarian only for the sunny days, but not the days of snow and ice? They're not a conservative when it comes to letting their belly and their baser instincts rule their behavior. This complete rudeness to a complete stranger is just super, super interesting to me. Then, of course, that leads to the shallow comments about my pink hair. And I love that, because it shows that they cannot think beyond a snap, beyond the person. So they see me and they immediately think a progressive. So they run off with that, and then out comes the worst of their shallow collectivist judgments, because I'm not a leftist. So the funny thing is I know probably about 40% of the time when a Matt Walsh stan shows up in my comments, they will just smugly go, regardless of what the subject of the video was. They're wind-up dolls. They'll just go very rudely, but tell me, what is a woman? And then when I answer, an adult human female, they don't know what to do. That's like getting a Jehovah's Witness at your door and you get them off their 3 Trinity scripts that they're used to doing. And they don't know what to do. You get these folks off of their "what is a woman" line, and you respond in a way that they just can't compute that someone who looks like you would respond, they just run away. I'll say it again. What is a woman? An adult human female. Okay, why don't you come back? Instead, you just run away because I was not who you thought I was. So they are just as tribal and collectivistic and shallow as the progressives they profess to oppose, who will look at you and say you're a privileged white man and make all sorts of judgments about you that might not be what you're about at all. For people that are opposed to allegedly this tribal mindset, this groupthink, they do it just as bad. Now, what's really makes me curious about that is they come at me like that when I'm not who they think I am, and I can shut it down simply by answering the question. But I start to feel really bad for when they do get an actual progressive. You think you're changing any minds by behaving that way? By just completely treating them like a dog turd? No, you're just making yourself feel better. It's a profoundly masturbatory act. And then, of course, they'll go on to discount other things without even knowing me. So first of all, it's, oh, you're just not very smart. Well, you might not agree with my opinions, but objectively, I'm not stupid. You know how they say with the intelligence distribution between men and women, there are no what's the saying go? I forgot where it said, men tend to scatter at the lowest end, cluster at the lowest end and the highest end, whereas women tend to cluster around the means. It's much rarer for a man to be average. They're in intellect, they're much more likely to be extraordinarily stupid or extraordinarily smart. Maybe it's the autism, but I rank in a pretty high percentile for women. Certainly not in any kind of genius range. There's many more men that are smarter than me, but I think the last time my IQ was measured, it was 150-ish. So it's certainly, I'm not stupid. You might not agree with me. You might think I'm outrageous, but I am objectively not stupid. But they see the hair, and that's immediately what they have to think, rather than somebody who just might be super creative or non-neurotypical people tend to outwardly express themselves differently. And I can tell you, when I got my assessment, my pink hair actually figured quite prominently in it, because in my assessment, there are things that the psychologist noted about me that I wouldn't even note about myself. They noted my fingernail polish and my dress and my way of speaking and my hair and the way I've carried myself. And they said she presents much younger than her chronological age. And it turns out that that is not unusual when it comes to autistic women. So when you get online and you start bullying people for their appearance, congratulations, thank you for bullying an autistic person. Good thing I'm autistic enough that I don't care. But I do care that there's other people that might deeply wound. I've been in the public eye a long time. That sort of stuff just, again, I like observing it, but it doesn't pierce my shell. In order to pierce my shell, you have to be somewhat close to me. And, anonymous commenters aren't close to me. And if someone is actually responding to my critique or my video, fair enough. But that 90% of the time isn't what it is. And then the next thing will be, you're looking at somebody who's alone. Well, I happen to be in an extraordinarily happy and, surprisingly, very traditional marriage. My husband wears the pants in my house. I wouldn't have it any other way. He is the head of the household. One thing I do agree with in my conservative upbringing in a more fundamentalist religious church, as our pastor used to say, in a marriage, one person has to be the head. They can consult with the other person. They certainly don't put them down, but anything with two heads is a freak. So I don't impose that upon anyone else's marriage, but that's the type of marriage I actively sought out. So it's so funny, these presuppositions that they put just based upon appearance and on the fact that I don't agree with their hero. That all of a sudden I must have 50 cats, be living alone, watching Jerry Springer and eating bonbons. But that simply isn't it. It's all just a belligerent, knee-jerk reaction. There's no curiosity and no desire to understand. And that is exactly how progressives behave. And that's what's disgusting about how progressives behave. And they behave exactly the same. Now, is Matt responsible for the way his fans act? No. I'm not responsible for what any of you guys may go out and do. People are responsible for their own actions. But I'm going to do a Ned Stark. Everything before the but is bullshit, so I won't do a but. However, if there is a certain percentage of people who listen to you and are taking in your teachings and then turn around to be an absolutely toxic force in the world, I do think you should do some self-reflection as to why that's so. What is it about you that attracts that type of personality, or someone with the capability for that type of personality that then goes and projects it upon the world? Just something to consider. It's something I've noticed over the past few days, but you want to know what? It's engagement. Have fun with that, guys. But maybe you need to do a little introspection. And when somebody, you do the gotcha, what is a woman? And the person you don't expect comes back with the right answer, don't run away like a little man coward. Come back and interact with it and go, you know what? That surprised me. You're right. And even if that's all you say, because the true mark of a decent person, and I would say a man, is being able to admit when you're wrong. Okay, that is it for this evening. And I got something covering my screen. I'm going to give it a few seconds just in case there's any comments I want to interact with. Plus, I'm looking for something here. Where's my next scene? Did I mess that up? I think I did on my little, oh, here it is, on my stream deck. All right, that's going to be it, I guess. Let me give it, again, one more minute while I take a sip of my margarita. All right, I hope you all have an awesome night. And the next video on deck, hopefully, though I don't know, Candace Owens came out with a great video today. And those of you who've watched some of my videos know I'm not a big Candace Owens fan. What's funny about Matt Walsh is I actually like him. I think his sense of humor is fantastic. I love dry sense of humors. Candace is someone I just fundamentally do not like. She rubs me the wrong way. However, her show today was excellent. And boy, was she going against the grain of what Ben Shapiro has been saying. So I don't know. I might do something on that. But what I did have next on deck is a few comments on a show I found about Christian nationalism. I do think Christian nationalism is a sleeper threat. I don't like saying threat in that way because I'm not saying threat like I think they're going to come marauding through the neighborhoods, but a political threat, an ideological movement that I think is really bubbling pretty strongly under the surface. So I'm going to be doing quite a few videos, I think, in the future on Christian nationalism. But there was this one short video that had a couple points I wanted to interact with. Okay, y'all, I hope you have an awesome night. Mi guapa, stay libertad. Oh! And I got in my LP dress. Check out this skirt. Okay. I don't know. So happy to get the clothing. All right. Bye-bye.
gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians, or choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business, not because they wanna